to Mo's Backyard Barbecue and Grill. I'm Mo, here's my partner Moxie, and today we're going to do a joint operation with a whole family. We're going to make a Valentine's meal that you can only get at the nicest restaurants, but we're going to do right here, combination of the backyard and the kitchen. We're going to have a good time with this, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much. First thing I'm going to do is prepare the butter for the lobster tails. All I did here was take 2 sticks of salted butter, put them in the microwave for a minute or two, till they're both completely melted. Once they're completely melted, I'll sift them through some cheesecloth and get most of the milk solids out. After which, I'll take a strainer and I'll get the rest of the milk solids out that I can. There's other ways to do this too, and I'm sure there are better methods, but this is what I had on hand. I'll keep working the butter until I get a nice clear base, like you would see in the Red Lobster or other seafood restaurants. It takes a little bit of effort, but it was worth it in the end. Next, I'm going to prepare the lobster tails for the grill. I'm going to do this pretty simply by taking a pair of kitchen shears and cutting the shells straight down the middle so I can allow it to get the seasoning in there a little better and the grill heat will penetrate more. You can do this other ways too. I've seen people do it with knives just to go ahead and get through this and the meat. However, I had a pair of kitchen shears available and I didn't want to cut my finger off, so I did it this way. After this, I'm just going to take a knife and cut almost all the way through the meat. Don't go all the way down because you don't want it completely splitting apart in your grill. About 3/4 of the way down will do you just fine. I'm going to make sure the shells are split apart. I would probably put a little more effort than this into doing it. Don't be afraid to crack it a little bit, but you get the idea. I plan on using my salt, pepper, garlic mix to season the lobster tails, but first I need to put on a binder, which is where the butter that I made earlier comes in. This is going to allow the SPG to really stick to it. That way when I put it in the grill, we get a nice flavor out of the meat when it's done. Put them all over. I put it in the cuts that I made, the outside, the shell, everywhere. I need to make sure this stuff sticks to everything and gets a good flavor in. Now here's the SPG mix I use. I'll put the recipe in the description below in case you want to give it a shot. I'm just going to get this stuff everywhere, especially on the meat, but all over the lobster tail itself. I have a feeling when it comes off the grill, we're going to be very, very happy. For the corn, we're going to keep it real simple. Lay out some aluminum foil sheets, put some slivers of butter on top, and instead of the old regular salt and pepper, we're going to use Blue Line from Frag Up Flavoring. This is a lime pepper blend that I use on a lot of things, but corn is one of my personal favorites. I'll put a link for the company below in the description so you can go check it out too. Now once I'm done applying the seasoning and the butter, all I'm going to do is roll the ears of corn up in some aluminum foil. Nice and tight, that way the butter doesn't leak out and the seasoning doesn't get out. This is going to cook really nicely as it does every time. Now it's time to reveal the star of this show. Dry-aged prime rib. I bought this prime rib roast about 40 days ago from a local butcher. I came home and I put it in some dry aging bags from dryagingbags.com. I'll leave a link below in the description for these. I didn't have to dry age it. You can see the marbling was great. And after 40 days, I trimmed them up and this is what I was left with. As you can see, the marbling is wonderful. These steaks look delicious and they are thick prime cuts. For the seasoning, I'm giving this a bit of a personal touch. I had some crystallized salt quite a while ago, so I decided to smoke it over some hickory pellets just like I did with the cheese in the smoke tube. You can check out my previous video to see that, but it's the same concept. This crystallized salt just gives it a little bit of a more bold, salty flavor in my opinion. You don't even have to necessarily do crystallized salt. You can do the same thing with kosher salt or table salt if you choose. Next up is some coarse ground pepper. Nothing special about the pepper, you can get it from any store you like, but I make sure I get it all over just like the salt, every edge, every corner that I can. And then I'm going to use garlic powder all over the steaks just like with the salt and pepper, every edge and every corner. For my final seasoning, I'll use a little bit of rosemary. This is optional, just a personal preference. Usually I have fresh I can use, but the store was out at the time before I started wanting to film this. So we're just going to put the dried stuff a little bit on there and see how it works out. So now we have my daughter Kaylee, who's doing her own specialty green bean recipe. I don't know how she came up with it. I gave her the basic salt and pepper. She added balsamic vinaigrette, some olive oil, and a few other things in there too. I'll put a basic recipe down in the description below, but she kind of makes this up as she goes along by taste. And I tell you, I don't even like green beans, and I love when she makes this stuff. This is amazing. I've never had green beans taste so good. You'll never go back to canned again if you have the chance to get this stuff, this fresh stuff every time. Right now she's washing out the green beans and she's going to get them ready to put in the pan. Once the green beans are acceptably washed for her, she'll go ahead and Coat the bottom of the pan with olive oil. Give it a little sift around while she's heating it up, and then she's going to dump the green beans in on top of the olive oil. Now before putting the cover on, she's going to throw her other ingredients in, including balsamic vinaigrette, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and she's going to keep going and taste testing it until it gets the way she wants it. And now that we're done with her portion, now we're going to hear from my lovely wife.
Alright, so I'm going to show you how to make baked potatoes in the Instapot. We got the Instapot probably about 3 years ago, and I've used it so much I actually had to get another one during quarantine. I use it probably as much as he uses the smoker. So it is a great way to make quick meals. You can essentially do almost anything in the Instapot. So that's what I'm going to show you guys how to do tonight.
To start, place water up to the trivet in the Instapot. Rinse the potatoes and then puncture them down the middle before placing in the Instapot. Place the potatoes in the pot. I can usually fit anywhere between 4 to 6 potatoes depending on the size. We will then drizzle some olive oil and sprinkle kosher salt on top of the potatoes. Now we're ready to start the pot.
Put the pressure on. And 25. Sit there for 25 minutes and let it get to pressure. The Instapot has completed with the natural pressure, so it has released naturally, and now we have baked potatoes that are cooked and ready to eat. So the other day, I went to the local grocery store and they actually had Cheesecake Factory at home famous brown bread that you can go ahead and heat and serve. So to kind of give it that little restaurant vibe that we're going for tonight, I'm going to heat and serve this Cheesecake Factory at home bread. So it'll be yummy and delicious.
You can either place the whole loaf of bread in the oven or slice the bread in smaller pieces. I decided to pre-slice the bread before cooking. Preheat the oven to 350, and when the oven's ready, go ahead and put the tray of bread in to cook. Give it 5 minutes and it'll be ready to go.
All right, and after about 5 minutes at 350, we have some nice baked bread. It looks just like the stuff from the Cheesecake Factory. It smells delicious, and it will be really good with some butter and to enjoy as a compliment to our meal.
For coals, I'm going to start off at the bottom of my chimney with Kingsford Original Briquettes. Then I'm going to top my chimney off with some Kamado Joe Big Block. This will get my fire nice and hot for searing those thick steaks. I also modified my Weber, got rid of the grate that came with it, and put these grates on there. Ceramic coated, these things get really hot really fast. So in case there's any question as to why I keep a fan on my porch when I'm doing these cooks, here's why. Don't try this at home, folks. I'm not a trained professional. I love the cooks where I can break up my special toys. I love these tongs. These are my favorite. Now I'm going to load up half my grill with these hot coals. All ready to go. I'm going to make sure I don't have any strays, that way they don't screw up my cook. I'm literally going to keep these things all on one half of the grill. Totally worth it. After letting the grill warm up, it was time to throw the corn on. This stuff is going to cook perfectly as long as I keep my eye on it. 10 minutes after that, it was time to throw the steaks on. I didn't know what I was getting into because they were so thick. I've never cooked steaks in the grill this thick, so I decided to give a little more leeway so I can have time for them. About 2 minutes later, I decided it was time to flip the steaks. They seemed like they were nice and seared on the backside, so it was a good time. The center one got away from me a little bit, so I scorched it a bit, but the insides were still perfect. I got no complaints with that one either. After another 2 minutes, it was time to sear the sides. I wanted to make sure I get every side since I'd never done steaks to stick before, and I was getting some flare-ups anyway, which is a good time to sear the fat in the sides of the steak. This is before I moved to the opposite side of the grill so they can finish off and get to their 135 or 140 degree temperature I was aiming for. I'm going to use my meter to help me monitor the temperature of the thinnest steak so I can finish it off really nicely. I only have one, so I got to be very careful with the other two. So this one's going in the thinnest one I have. The other two are going to be monitored by my Insta-Read that I keep in my pocket. This will give me a good baseline to tell me if it's about to be done or pretty darn close. As you can see, I'm kind of struggling to find a good place to put all the steaks, and that center one that I scorched at the beginning is really falling apart on me, which tells me a lot about the dry aging process. It really broke down the fat in the middle of it. So now before it's getting dark, I'm going to show off my tactical apron, which is awesome, I think. I think my wife for that one, I think. Yeah, I think she bought it for me. That's my label right here. Can't tell who we have in the back. I don't know, I might slip some body armor in here just to see what happens. You know, you never know when you might be grilling in your backyard and somebody just takes a shot at you, like, you know, some sniper in the tree or something. So for me, I learned that on the Weber kettle, for me, 400 degrees, about 20 minutes or so for the corn, and they turn out perfectly for us every time. The steaks, never done dry aging before. They're really thick for what they are, so I'm trying to get into 135, 140. My wife actually prefers 140 or 145. I prefer 135. You know, between 135 and 140, they turn out well for me. But the corn definitely has worked for me great on my Weber kettle. These steaks, this is new grounds for me, so I'm just taking it slow. Never done lobster before, but I think we're about to do. I think they're going to turn out awesome, but we'll see. Use a butcher. Don't go to Walmart. You know, don't go to Kroger. I mean, you can go to Kroger. They got some decent stuff. I'm not gonna say they got bad stuff, but I got this from a local butcher in my area, and they've been great to me so far. And I'm gonna keep going back because they really are amazing. I went to the counter and I asked for it. They gave it to me. Due to some technical difficulties, I wasn't able to show me pulling off the first two steaks, but it's time to throw the lobster on now. From what I've read, I'm looking for a time of 3 to 5 minutes on each side, an internal temperature of 135. A few minutes after this, the corner's ready to come off. This is this 20-minute mark, and I bet they're perfect. A couple more minutes later, I was trying to get more of a butterfly out of the lobster tail. I've never done lobster on the grill before, so this was a new ground for me. I decided to go ahead and flip them since I saw some red starting to show on the shell. Now was as good a time as any to flip them, as I just wanted to get her done, and now the family was getting hungry and it was getting dark. The last steak was being stubborn, so I was using my instant read thermometer to check it. She finally decided to hit 135 internal temperature, and I pulled her off. Decided to check the lobsters one more time. We're not quite there yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push them over to the hot side of the grill and speed them up to 135 to get this done quickly. Well, now starting to get hungry, and it's getting dark. These lobster tails are done. Finally. Well, the family's really bugging me about wanting to eat now, so I'm looking forward to pulling these things off, getting them rested so we can all dig in. These look good. I've never done lobster on the grill before, but I imagine this won't be the last time I do this. These were amazing, and they looked really good when I first pulled them off. Hey everyone, thanks for joining us on our first joint operation. We hope you enjoyed.
Happy Valentine's Day!
Cheers everyone.
Cheers!
Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time.